Everybody, welcome back to our channel, and I am super excited today to have Erin from Inn Town Campground, who is all the way in Nevada City, California. So I don't normally get the opportunity to interview people in America, so this is really exciting. So thank you so much for coming on and talking to us.
Thank you
Um,
so much for having us. It's an honor. I'm in awe over some of the glamping establishments out throughout the globe. So I always love peeking behind the curtain and seeing what's out there.
so first of all, tell us a little bit about Inn Town Campground.
Sure. So the In Town Campground opened, this will be our 10th summer. So we've been open for 9 years. My husband and I built the campground from the ground up. We are located in a historic gold mining town in Northern California in the foothills, and we offer tenting, glamping, and RV sites. We're a family-friendly campground, and our amenities include a camp store, communal kitchen, a seasonal swimming pool, outdoor movies for the kids, and then you can walk to our historic downtown from the campground.
Wow, that sounds amazing. So that is it really busy. How many different glamping sites do you have, and how many different tent sites do you have?
Yeah, so the campground is 15 acres and we have a total of 70 sites altogether. And the breakdown is 21 glamping tents, 16 RV sites with hookups, and then 30 tent camping. So, give or take. And yeah, it can be a really busy, fun, active place on a Saturday in the summer season. We
Yeah, I know.
currently
Yeah, I can't imagine that level of work. We've only got six geodomes and a holiday cottage, and I'm rushed off my feet. So I can't imagine what does a typical day look like for you.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the season. So, and I always tell people that we don't run the campground all on our own. We've had moments when people call in sick, COVID, all sorts of other unfun
Mm.
things where we're left to the operations on our own, but that's not a sustainable model. So, in the height of the season, we'll have 10 to 12 employees to come and help, and they'll do things like helping clean bathrooms and outside facilities and housekeeping and fire pits and garbage and all those things that are sometimes not as glamorous as Instagram makes them. But a day-to-day operation for me, like my job is mostly inside tasks, so I'll work in the camp store or I'll do some behind the scenes, boring computer stuff. But probably my favorite part of the operations that I'm responsible for is interacting with the customers and engaging with people.
Yeah, that is my favourite part as well. My husband will lose me for a couple of hours up on the site for no reason other than I've just gone up for a wander and I'm there chatting to people. What made you start this in the first place? So 10 years ago, what made you think, right, this is what I want to do for a career?
Yeah, so we actually started it more than 10 years ago because we built it from the ground up. So,
Oh, wow.
but my mom renovated a motel. So when in my early 20s, I went to work for her. So I had a lot of opportunities to learn outdoor hospitality, recreation, lodging. And then Dan decided that he wanted to get an MBA. So we actually traveled abroad and he went to grad school in New Zealand. And so when we lived in New Zealand, our kids were born and we lived there for a number of years and we traveled around and it got to experience the holiday parks that they have in New Zealand, which are camping with different types of accommodations. They always are close to town, a communal kitchen, playground, things that are really family friendly and not so RV park centric, which is sort of more of an American mindset. So we thought, oh, this would be a really great addition to our community when we moved back to California. So we knew we had an idea, we had a vision, and then we just were waiting for the right piece of property, which happened to, there's sort of a longer story, but it came into our life in 2013. So yeah, more than 10 years we have been on this crazy journey.
You are really good at the PR, the social media, and you've won some awards. How did you get to know all about that sort of stuff? Like that's when I think when you run a business like this, you have to be so many hats, don't you? You have to know how to do all the accounting, you have to know how to do your marketing, you have to be a good cleaner to start with. Like, where did your skill come from in the world of social media and PR?
I've always been a visual person. I definitely feel like when I lived abroad, I took a lot of photos of my children because, their family is 7,000 miles away. So you want to be able to capture
Mm.
where we are and what our daily life looks like. So, before the ideas of vlogging and today's mommy bloggers. But when we took over the motel, I tell people that I started a blog on things to do in our local community because while I was from that area, I hadn't lived there and I wanted to share my rediscovery and exploration because the customers are all asking, what what's there to do, where to go to eat, where can I go
Mm,
for a hike. So instead of having to repeat the conversation, which you still have to do, I
yeah.
created content to help. So I had a whole decade of blogging under my teeth
Oh, wow.
before I took over the campground. So when we built the campground, I used those skill sets to help continue to hone who we are, what we're doing. But I will happily admit that like I'm like late to the TikTok game. Like I'm definitely still learning certain things, and I also, when people ask, like, how did you get into these magazines and how did you get onto the news? There's so much value in hiring a publicist who knows that and is good at that. And if she thinks we're a dream client because we understand how to sell our story and create good content, but then she can help facilitate and get you to those people that will help you get to the next level. So it's not a one person operation, and it's been years of trial and error. And I still feel like I'm learning and trying. And I mean, the algorithm changes, and I'm like, well, now what am I supposed to do? So,
Yeah, that's the thing. It is there's so much to learn all the time, isn't it? As social media changes and they bring more platforms on, you think, do I need to go with this one? Do I like are people dropping off Facebook, for example? I think you're doing an incredible job. But do you think it's from a marketing point of view, spending some money on a publicist and PR is definitely worth it, do you think?
yeah, because those are people that I don't know. I mean, I would love to say that I have a Rolodex of amazing contacts in print and media publications all over the globe, but I don't, and I'm okay with admitting that. So, I think that was a good, useful connection for us, and we've gone back to use her on different times when we have indeed won awards, and you're like, oh, how do we get this news out to our greater audience, and that's how we've ended up on the news. And then you have people who show up at our campground because once we're right in town, like very easily accessible, and people are like, I saw you on the news. So but I also have people who do the same thing, like, I saw you on YouTube. I'm like, great, welcome, nice to meet you.
Yeah, it's amazing how many, like now in this day and age, how we've got all these opportunities to get ourselves out there. I think, like, how did campgrounds do it 30 years ago when there was no social media? It must have been really difficult. We're
I mean,
lucky.
I think that's probably a good segue into the campgrounds out there still that don't have online reservations. I was like, how do I know if you have availability, and how do I check this when I'm having this thought process outside of office hours? And how do I see who you are, and have you updated any of your social media in the last like 5 years?
Yeah, you're right. There are places out there that are still doing pen and paper reservations. And I know I tried recently to book a glamping pod, and I had to phone up. And because I had to phone up, I was looking. I always look for things like late at night on a Sunday night when I know no one's going to answer the phone. And by the time I'd emailed her and she got back to me the next day, I'd booked somewhere online, and that's just how today's guests book, isn't it? Like you have to have an online presence. And I know that you're using ResNexus, like we use ResNexus for our property management software. But I heard that you were using it and then you left it and then you went back to it. So I'd love to know a little bit more about that, about what you didn't like about it or what brought you back to it.
Yeah. So as I said before, we used to own a motel, which we had used ResNexus at the motel before. So when we started the campground, it was really easy to have the two businesses on the same platform, and you could toggle between each one. I have since sold the motel, but at that time that was helpful for our knowing the platform and understanding. And we wanted a few more opportunities to, I don't know, whiz bang features, I guess is a good way to put it. There are some
Mhm.
amazing things out there that some of the other reservation systems have. And so we decided to take a leap and make a switch. And what we learned from the process is that you don't really know what you already have and the value it is until you don't have it. And so our campground is very site specific. There's a trend in RV parks these days to have like site locking fees, and you book one accommodation and you get whatever the Tetris game can give you. And that doesn't work for our model because of the topography of our campground. Every site is different, every view is different, the trees are different, they're just not the same. And we
Mm.
built the campground with that. And so our customers came to expect that. They want tent site 19, or they want glamping tent 13, or they want RV site number 10. These are all site specific, and they have certain attributes and pros and cons for whatever reasons people are camping. And our reservation system that we switched to couldn't do that. And it was like a square and a round peg. We just kept trying to make it work, and it was creating too many barriers. So we ended up, after 6 months of trying, and they have a lot of really great features. And I think that the right reservation system for the right campground or glamping campground is good. You just have to know what you actually need, and is the cost of what you're going to pay for worth it? And are you going to utilize some of those additional features? So
Mm.
yeah, we learned the really hard way. And as the girl who had all the data entry process and all of the bookkeeping process, like it was not a fun process at all.
No, I
And
bet.
yeah, I guess the answer to your question is why did we leave in the first place? We wanted to expand. We wanted more income opportunities. We wanted to see if we could grow. And in the end, it wasn't worth it, cost and effort and barriers to campers.
But that's all part of running a business, isn't it? It's the trying, the failing, the learning from those mistakes, and then getting back up and learning and doing something else. And I think, that's so brilliant that you were brave enough to take the leap, then brave enough also to realize, okay, this isn't working. Let's go back to what we know. Because so many businesses that I see, they just keep going with the same thing. They're never really innovating. And then people just, there's so much competition now. And I don't know if you know what the market's like in the UK, but there are about 5,000 glamping sites. We had about 3,000 glamping sites around COVID, and then it boomed. We got another 2,000 just over those couple of years. And so I think in America as well, you're kind of up and coming, aren't you? Like it is booming over there, whereas we're kind of at saturation point, I think now, where there are so many that it's people are struggling to get into the industry, which means that you're continually having to innovate and spend money um, and just make it better than the rest.
Well, we talk about how we've been, as I said, this will be our 10th summer, and we've had glamping from the very beginning. So we definitely have been from the original glamping agenda, and watched the industry. And saturation, I think, a good word choice because, like, when we first started, the RV park industry was like, "You're doing what? Like what?" And because we built the campground, we were able to have the glamping really site specific. It's integral in the design of the campground. There's no afterthoughts. We didn't build the campground and then add glamping. We built the campground
Mm.
with glamping included. Um, but yeah, no, people are definitely more aware of it, and there's, as you said, more saturation. So there's more opportunities to go glamping. California is
Mm.
quite a large state, and like depending on what you want and how much you want to spend, you have options. So how have we continued to innovate? I mean, since we opened, we have actually redone all of our glamping tents because they don't have an unlimited shelf life. So that
Mm.
was a good opportunity to freshen up what we already offered.
You've got walled, like timber framed walled tents, haven't you? And some
Mhm.
yurts. Would you ever do something different, add some more? Or are you at capacity now? You're happy with the size of it?
I mean, we have, since we opened, taken tent sites and turned them into glamping tents. So
Mm.
I would say that there's not an opportunity to grow the campground per se because we have neighbors on all sides of us.
Mm.
But we have converted things from one use to another use, and we've talked about that. I think if we were to go back and redesign what we know now, we probably would have less tent camping than we do. But at this moment in time, we'll keep the tent camping, and things do they transition, I guess is the best word choice.
Do you have any particular feature with ResNexus that is your favourite thing about it that you love to tell people about or is great for the guests?
I mean, we've been doing the text messaging features since they offered it, and I like that there's a flat fee and it's an unlimited price or a flat fee for unlimited texting, and that is something that we integrated it really early on, to reach out to our customers, to help them, get their check-in information, and then I also use it as like a safety thing. Like we've had a few scenarios where we have to send an alt text to somebody. We had a missing kid. Everyone was fine, but there's certain times where you're like, you need all boots on the ground to look for the child at this moment in
Mm.
time. And that was a really easy way to help solve that problem in a time of need. And yeah, so the text messaging has been great. I can't imagine running the business without it anymore.
Mm.
And then also, I like things that are automated. So the fact that our campers receive automated confirmation reminders and automated thank you, hope you had a good stay. I also like that there's lots of pictures of our individual campsites. So as a
Mm.
girl who's taken many, many, many photos, it's really great for campers to be able to be like, oh, what does this site look like?
Mm. And photos are so important when you're trying to sell a place, aren't they? Like a good quality photo is what people want to see. They don't necessarily want to read all the information, they just want to be able to see what they're booking. And yeah, it is amazing that you can put those 25 photos on. And actually, even now, you can upload a video on there, which I haven't tried yet, but I'm going to start doing little walkthrough videos of each of our glamping tents, in order to to better sell it, I guess. And so it's easy for the guests to know exactly what they're getting.
I do appreciate that when I have a question, even dumb ones, I can call and ask, and somebody is helpful and friendly and timely. So that's been a real benefit to us.
Yeah, that's amazing. I feel exactly the same way about it. But yeah, that's amazing insights into your beautiful campground. I'm so grateful that you've taken the time to talk to us. It was so lovely to meet you.
Yeah, and if any of your watchers are like, where and how, like, you can find all of this online in towncampground.com. As I said earlier, I like to play on social media places, so you can find me on most platforms. And I love engaging with people virtually as well as in person. So feel free to reach out and be like, oh, hey, I saw you, and here are my questions, and I'm happy to help and engage.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you. And I will put all the links to everything in the description as well, so you'll be able to find it super easily. That is the end of this episode. So thank you so much for watching, and we will see you on the next video.